Standing up, I sighed. How many more of there are you? I hurried down the stairs, John and George following behind me. Once I reached the laundry room, I swung the door open, already knowing what to expect. A man with straight, shoulder-length brown hair and brown eyes. He whipped around to face me. "Who are you, and where am I?" he snapped. "My name's Nominee Lee, and you're in 2017, I replied gently, not wanting to anger him any further. 2017? He repeated, astonished. He spun around, taking in his surroundings, touching everything as he did so. He turned around to face me, most likely to ask questions, but then his eyes wandered behind me. "Lawrence?" he asked, tears forming in his eyes. "Hey there, Alex," John greeted, walking in front of me. The two men wrapped each other in a hug, which lingered for a moment. Once they let go, Alex looked up at George, who nodded at him in a fatherly way, which Alex returned. He turned around back to face me. "I'm sorry for shouting at you, Miss Nominee. I believe that I should introduce myself. My name is Alexander Hamilton." He stuck out his hand for me to shake, which I took happily. "It's nice to meet you too, Alex. You wouldn't happen to know why you're here, would you?" I asked as I pulled my hand away. "No, I'm afraid that I don't. I just died. Then I woke up in your—" He trailed off. "My laundry room," I filled in, an amused grin making its way onto my face. "You have an entire room just for laundry? Oh, I have so many questions," he began. He ran around the house picking everything up and asked for a detailed explanation of what it did. Eventually, he just walked up to my dining room table and gestured towards it. "What is this?" I stifled a laugh. "Alexander, that's a table." "Oh, yeah," he simply replied before moving on to his next victim, a lamp. Throughout the night, we had two more people arrive. The first one was Hercules Mulligan. He was tall. Not as tall as Washington, though, and he had short, curly brown hair and brown eyes. He took everything pretty well, except for 2017's fashion choices. He was shocked about that. But after some explaining, he was fine. I will admit, I was a bit intimidated when I first met him. He looked like he wouldn't hesitate to fight someone. But after some conversation, I learned that he was just a very loud teddy bear. The second was Marie-Joseph Paul Yves Roche Gilbert de Malt, Marquis de Lafayette. He had poofy brown hair, which he tamed into a bun soon after coming here, and big brown eyes. He may or may not have screamed when he first got here, but once he saw his friends and they told him what was going on, everything was fine. I soon learned that he was very flirty. He took any given opportunity to compliment me in his thick French accent, or to give me any subtle affection possible. Although, once you look past that part in his personality, he is quite the gentleman. Soon enough, we all fell into conversation, the boys telling me about their war stories. Meanwhile, I told them about the future. They seemed so easy to talk to, which is surprising considering they're over 250 years old and just teleported from the 1700s. Well, that's how it is, I guess. After 45 minutes of talking with the guys, a familiar crash resonated throughout the house, although no one knew where it came from. We decided to split up and investigate. I walked around the lower floor while I heard two muffled voices emerge from my closet. "Get off me, Jimmy!" the first man whisper shouted. "Thomas, I can't. I'm stuck," Jimmy responded. I lightly chuckled and swung the door open. The two men fell out of the closet, landing on top of each other. The man dubbed Thomas jumped up once he saw me. He approached me while Jimmy stood up, brushing himself off. "Holy crap, they're clones," I mumbled, seeing as they looked just like Hercules and Lafayette. "Hello, miss. My name is Thomas Jefferson. Would you happen to know where we are?" He introduced himself, kissing my knuckles. "My name is Nominee Lee, and you're in New York. The year is 2017. I repeated for the 100th time that night. "Boys, I found them!" I shouted throughout the apartment. As expected, the other men all rushed down the stairs, eager to see who the newest guests were. However, as soon as Alex made eye contact with Thomas, he groaned in annoyance. Thomas followed in suit. I laughed at their irritation. I'm guessing you boys have a bad history? Jefferson is the embodiment of arrogance, he exclaimed, coming out muffled due to the fact that his face was buried in his hands. Well, I wouldn't be talking, Hamilton. How did Adams put it? Jefferson replied with a smirk on his face. You're a Creole bast, after all. At least Daddy's behind you this time. Alex balled his hands into tight fists, anger evident in his face. He stomped towards Jefferson, raising his fist up in the air. Quickly, I put myself in between the two men, wrapping my small hand around his fist. Alex, he isn't worth it. Calm down, I said gently, knowing that he wasn't in the wrong. I eased his fist back down to his side, earning a snicker from Jefferson. I turned towards the man behind me, glaring at him. And you, watch your mouth while you're staying in this house. Do you understand that? I demanded harshly. He gulped, nodding frantically. I turned around. You boys hungry? I decided to call Pizza Hut, knowing that nowhere else was open at 2 o'clock in the morning. We passed the time by explaining the future to Jefferson and Jimmy, who finally introduced himself as James Madison. Jefferson mocked Alex for having so many questions, but soon had plenty of questions of his own. Soon enough the doorbell rang, which startled everyone, giving me quite the laugh. I stood up, paid for the pizza, and set the 3 boxes down on one of the countertops. As I opened the box, the boys began eyeing its contents warily. It's fine, you guys. It's just some breaded crust with some... I paused for a moment, remembering that tomatoes were considered highly poisonous in the 1700s. Some sauce and cheese. One of them has pepperonis on it. It's pretty good, I explained convincingly. Apparently it had worked, as each of the men grabbed a slice or two, seeming to enjoy it. As I finished eating, I soon realized that I didn't have enough room for 7 men and myself, so I decided to call my friend Faith, as I remembered that they had a couple of spare air mattresses in their basement. The phone rang a couple of times before they picked up. Hey, Nominee, what's up? They greeted. Hey, do you still have those air mattresses in your basement? I asked. Of course I do. I am an air mattress collector after all. I only have the finest in my collection, I joked. Ah, yes, how could I forget? 3 of them are Norwegian. I burst out into laughter, although quickly recovering as I remembered that I wasn't alone. All jokes aside, I still have them. I'm guessing you need me to bring them over tonight? Could you? If so, that would be amazing. There's something I gotta explain to you. Nominate. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I have pizza, and you can stay the night. I'm on my way, they replied, hanging up the call. I turned towards the boys. I have a friend coming over to join us named Faith. I need you guys to be on your best behavior. There's no need to worry, Miss Nominee. We'll be respectful of your friend, George responded. It isn't you that I'm worried about, I said, moving my gaze towards Alex and Thomas. Can you guys just try not to rip each other's throats out for now? Please? After a moment of silence, the 2 men grumbled in agreement, avoiding all eye contact. Thank you. Suddenly the doorbell rang once more. I jumped to open the door. I was greeted by having an empty air mattress thrown at my face. Luckily, I managed to catch it before I fell flat on my face. As I heard the boys walking out of the living room, I decided to explain everything to Faith before they freaked out. Quickly, I set the air mattress down. Now that I could see, Faith was having a staring contest with the guys. As soon as they saw me looking at them, they whispered, Are you having a boozeroo or something? What? No! This is what I have to explain. You see, I was walking home from my classes, and this dude threw a book out of his window, and when I opened it, everything flashed white, and then these guys just started appearing all over my apartment. These guys meaning George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Lawrence, Marcus de Lafayette, and Hercules Mulligan. They said that they died, and then they just appeared here, I rambled nervously. I looked up at them to see that they were staring at me, one of their eyebrows raised. "What kind of drugs are you on?" they asked. "I'm not on drugs. This actually happened." "Well then, this is possibly the coolest thing to have happened ever. You have the founding fathers in your living room. But how is that even possible? They would have had to travel through time, which isn't even around yet, much less in their time and wait a minute. You said Alexander Hamilton was here?" "Yeah, he's right there," I pointed at him, and he stepped forward. "Hello, Faith. It is a pleasure to—" He was cut off by them slapping him across the face. "You're a freaking moron, you know that, right?" "Faith, stop!" I shouted, trying to avoid conflict. "Nuh-uh. Do you know what this a-hole did? He cheated on his wife with a woman who was abused by her husband, and then paid $1,000 to keep seeing her, which is about $19,000 today. And once he got caught, he wrote it down on a little something called the Reynolds pamphlet, not only ruining his life, but Mariah Reynolds' life as well. Did you know she had a child to support? Did you ever think about what you did?" they ranted. I'm sorry, Alexander began, looking down at the ground, tears gathering in his eyes. "Save it." "Naminé, can you help me get the mattresses out of my car?" they asked, looking at me as if nothing happened. I nodded, too shocked to say anything. I stormed out after them. "What the heck was that for? He deserved it. He messed up on something from 200 years ago. You can tell he feels guilty as heck for it, just by looking at him. Just lay off, okay?" I interrupted, trying to get my point across. They sighed. "Okay, fine. He's still an a-hole, though." "You know what? As long as you keep that to yourself, you can think whatever you want. I'm taking this inside," I replied, ending the conversation by walking back inside. We spent the next hour blowing the air mattresses up, and everyone turned in soon after. George took the couch, Jefferson and Madison shared a mattress, while Hercules and Lafayette shared the other. Meanwhile, Alex and John shared the guest bedroom, and Faith and I shared mine. I fell asleep quickly, only to be woken up 2 hours later to hear soft crying coming from the hallway. Concerned, I snuck out of the bed and quietly opened the door as to not wake up Faith. As I looked around, I saw a dark figure, knees pulled up to their chest, softly sobbing. I turned on the light to see Alexander?